And thank you very much for joining us. I am Iori Folari. Glad you could join us. As I said, the big news, of course, talk about a landmark judgment. The Supreme Court judgment yesterday that indeed now the federal government must pay local government councils directly. That's because it has not worked. Until now, they could pay either through the state governments or pay them directly. They tried through the state governments, and it just didn't work. And so it has now been ordered, and it has been said that if indeed any governor impedes in any way this new arrangement, that governor would be guilty of what was the expression? The delicate expression was a sort of a gross, well, they were quite, but in short, it would be a very, very serious matter. They're not allowed to do so. But, the courts was being as discreet as it could be, as it was being as emphatic as it needed to be. Well, our guest this morning is millionaire businessman and presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning to you, Mr. Kachikwu. I could read your lips because I know you did respond, but unfortunately we couldn't hear it. That's not your fault, sir. We'll sort this out. It's not you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much. Yep, we can. So I was just thanking you for making the time for us. And to first of all, get your, as a politician, this affects just everybody in the country. And let me get your first read, your overview of the significance of this, that now federal governments willy-nilly will be, local government councils will be paid directly.
Well, I think it is news that gladdens the heart of most Nigerians, myself included. This means that we can have true federalism as stipulated in our constitution. This means that development can get to the grassroots. This means that local government chairmen don't have to be lackeys or seen as political appointees of governors. That means they can do their jobs. Since President Tinubu was elected into office and since subsidy was removed, what a lot of Nigerians don't know is that most local governments in Nigeria have gotten more money than they have ever gotten in the last 3 decades. But getting money and getting money from the state's joint state account and getting money directly are two different things, but certainly they'll be getting more money. And a lot of people don't realize that in times past, state governments used to pay salaries of local government employees, school teachers and what have you, because they could never, the monies that accrued to them was never enough to take care of this. But since subsidy was removed, they are now taking care of their salaries on their own, which is good. But now, with this judgment, they can do a whole lot more. It's a very, very good judgment, very, very timely.
And I suppose it's also noteworthy that this initiative was at the instance of the executive.
That's correct, yes. It was at the instance of the executive. It came at a time, I believe that President Tinubu continued on the part of President Buhari, because President Buhari had made moves towards this, but this was what was needed. This was the executive action that was needed to ensure that the governors complied. And I applaud this, the president. I also applaud the Supreme Court because they were very, very clear in their ruling. They dealt with all aspects and of the different dimensions of relationship between state and local governments, the issue of appointment of caretaker committees, and every single time. It was a very, very good, a sound judgment, I must say.
Yeah, yes. And they even in the process redefined some things for us, that Nigeria as a country has 3 layers of government. The one that surprised me a bit was when it went further to say that none was necessarily superior to the other. You know, I said, oh, you know, that's good to know. That particular construction, did that impress you?
That's very, very true. If you understand that the three levels of government, federal, state, and local government, are actually independent of each other but interdependent, you know, and there's not one that is superior to the other, then you understand that it's actually easy for someone to run for president of Nigeria, be the president of Nigeria, and if he wants to serve, can actually run for the office of local government chairman if he wants to continue serving these people. Service to the people actually begins in the local government areas, because that is where you feel the pulse of the people. President Tinubu has done well. The Supreme Court has done well with this judgment. What we now expect to see is credible people running for that office. People who have got something to offer to their people. People who understand that the local government is just not how we've seen it before, but actually an arm of government, a tier of government that delivers, that has the mandate to bring about infrastructure, investment, services, make laws that impact on the people. I believe that with the necessary budget now and money is coming to them, that they can do a whole lot more, like we've seen a few local governments doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed. And you've just touched on what I was going to ask you about, that. Do you expect this to now result in a different quality of, you know, aspirants that vie for local council positions? And you've just, you know, spoken about that. Because right now, in terms of governance, it has been seen as something of the poor cousin of the family. But now that has been removed. That stigma has been removed. And because it was so, even though it is debatable, contestable, if my definition is correct, but when it was seen as a poor cousin, it then dictated the kind of people that, you know, vied for office there. But now, people who at the moment might think that, no, I'm bigger than that. I've got to go for president. I've got to go for senator. Now, all of that doesn't matter anymore, because you now will have the wherewithal to do whatever it is that you're thinking about once you can sell it to your electorate and make your mark. And you, as you've just said, begin to make your reputation from there.
Absolutely. But you are actually kind when you say poor cousin. The local government has been the poor townsman or kinsman from your village, not cousin. Cousin is good. Cousin is family member. Is the poor townsman from your village. That's what the local government system or chairman has always been. But now, I tell you, in the next elections, the next round of elections, you will see the caliber of people who will vie for that office. What a lot of people don't understand, that this has opened up room to state police also. Because these guys, because when we speak about state police and policing at different levels, right, we can now actually look at policing at that level. These guys can now start making laws to look at securing their area, because they don't have the requisite budget to ensure that they can protect themselves. There's a lot that this will open up, you understand? Because when you now have the right caliber, the quality of people with intellect, intellectual capacity, you will see what they will bring into their domains. I'm actually very, very excited. I was discussing with someone earlier today who is a House member in one of the states, and I said to him, don't you think you should go and run for local government chairman? He said, absolutely. I mean, that is actually thinking about it, because it makes more sense. You can actually deliver dividends of democracy to your people easier, having executive actions with the budget to back it.
Although we've not heard yet officially from the Governors Forum, but some individual governors have, you know, hailed the situation that we find ourselves in now, progressive governance. I think Governor Soludo is one of them, and also one other have spoken out and said that now this is a wonderful thing to happen. What was the problem before now, where governors where the way they had the attitude that they had, all those methodologies have now been taken away. They cannot appoint caretaker chairman and do all those things that they do, so that whoever was in charge was at their behest. Now all of that can't be done. But what was the problem? Was it that they didn't trust those who were there? Surely it couldn't have been greed alone, that we want the money and we will let you have what we think is appropriate.
Well, you already mentioned greed. Beyond greed, you also had the issue that these guys appointed people who lacked the capacity to administer their domains, right? And if you appoint such people there, you essentially want to put a nozzle on the purse, so that you know that these guys are going to mismanage the funds. Also, the funds that accrued to them in the past was essentially not enough, because the reality was that whereas we want to say, oh, these state governors were greedy, a lot of state governors were actually paying the way for the local governments, because the money that accrued to them was not even enough to take care of their salaries. So we must also understand this, that the state governors were doing more than they ought to have been doing in supporting local governments in times past. But since President Tinubu came on board, since the removal of subsidy, there's more than enough money now. More than enough money. There's no reason why any state governor should want to steal local government funds. There's no reason why any local government should not perform now. Now, the onus is on the Nigerian people to demand more, to demand better.
Indeed.
President Tinubu has opened the way for us to see that we have adequate resources. Now, what is being done with those resources is for the people to start questioning those who lead them. As a local government chairman, if you are getting 400 million, 500 million, 600 million or more every month, what are you doing with that money? The people ought to understand that governance begins and ends with them. If you have no requirements, if you have no needs, if you have no needs of those who lead you, of course they will do what they want. But the people ought to demand and say, this is what we require. Someone should not be elected into office on nothing. Before he gets into office, there should be a plan, there should be a blueprint that the people have signed off on. They voted that person into office based on that blueprint, based on the plan. And then they have to make sure that that person implements what that plan. If you don't perform, the people vote you out. They can impeach you, you can do anything. I expect that we are going to see a more vibrant populace, a more vibrant democratic system now. I expect that we'll see a better caliber of people running for office. I expect that we'll see job creation at local government level. I expect that a lot of people, what we used to have, rural to urban migration will be stemmed greatly now, because a lot of activities were happening at the local government level, and people will have no need. We won't have graduates all running to the city centers, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, and all these places. The local government chairmen can now ensure that they are creating more suburban or urban areas in their local government areas that allow the middle class to thrive in those places. This is what we expect to see now.
Well, as you said, you look forward to a higher caliber of personnel now showing a serious interest in local councils. But I imagine there's going to be a need for, without meaning to be disparaging on the current, shall we say, makeup, there's going to be a whole lot of capacity building that's going to be necessary, because with much, with much infusion comes a higher level of responsibility. So people just have to know what they're doing. Transparency is going to be demanded, because the people actually know these guys. It might not be the same for your senator or your representative and even the president. You don't have as much of a personal contact as we will now have that can be a quality kind of person. But I suppose going along with that will be capacity building, training, so that these people can rise to the responsibility that they now have, all these officers in the local councils.
True that, but let me say this though. I mean, as much as I'm excited, right, we do have to realize and understand that there are people who are already in place there at all the local government levels right now, except the places where they're about to conduct elections, where we have caretaker chairman and what have you, right? Those people have entered through the old system, right?
Yes.
Who are mainly lackeys of the governors and what have you, right? Those people will have a lot of money coming their way. I will tell you at least half of these people, councillors, are people who are near illiterates, okay? Or stark illiterates. There are people who are just handpicked and put in there, even the local government chairman, people who don't know their left from their right. A lot of money is coming their way, and no one should expect miracles to happen in the first 2-3 years until these people leave, when you now expect that you have better candidates vying for those offices. The magic will not happen immediately. I need to state this clearly, right? The people who are there are people who have been there in the last 1 year, who are getting a lot of money, right? So it's when we enter the next round of elections, right? That's when we expect to start seeing a better caliber of people vying for those offices, right? Yeah, I mean, you are talking to me now. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you are vying for a local government chairman office next time around. Who knows? Because things are going to be happening at that level, and
absolutely,
and that's what we expect to see. That's what we expect to see everywhere, because we know that the budgeting is there. The law has enshrined it and guarantees it, and a lot more will happen. And I think that this is the first round in this battle to ensure that devolution of powers and that power goes to the people. If the president has done this, I expect that he has more in his kitty of things that he needs to do by way of executive action, by way of Supreme Court interpretation, to ensure that governance is getting down to the people. This is just one in many things that I expect will happen very, very soon.
Mr. Additional in Osun State, good morning to you, sir. Go ahead now.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yori,
yes, sir.
This is what I said in the issue of democracy in the country. We are all happy that at last, the local government is free. And the rider to that is that we want the election to be conducted by INEC. That is one.
Okay,
then,
okay.
The role that has not been given to traditional ruler has come. Let traditional ruler be second tier of legislative arm for the local government. This will ensure budget tracking, we contain insecurity, and a lot of other things. The job will be created, and everybody will be happy. The trend of our youth going to for cadre riding and all that will stop, because artisans will get work in construction of villages and converts, and this is a watershed in the history of local government administration in the country. We are happy, and kudos to President Dumebi.
Indeed.
Kudos to Supreme Court for that landmark judgment. If a freedom for democracy in Nigeria.
Indeed.
We appreciate President Dumebi, and that is why we know he knows what he's doing. He will deliver, and indeed is delivering. We thank him. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Additional, calling from Osun. And as I said, kudos to the Supreme Court. It was a unanimous decision, by the way. I'm sure you noted that. There was no dissenting judge in that, situation. Now, Mr. Dumebi, Kachikwu, he brought up the matter of we want INEC to conduct the elections. No more state independent electoral, commission. Comment on that, because immediately this news broke yesterday. People said, but if INEC doesn't conduct the elections, they still are on the apron strings of the governors. What do you think?
Well, earlier I said that this is just the first round, and I expect that the president has a lot more in his kitty coming, and that was what I was referring to. We all know what happens with the state electoral bodies. We all know that they are teleguided from the government houses, and we have a situation where 100% of the offices or local government offices are always won by the ruling party, okay?
Yeah.
And so we have sham elections at that level. So I expect that the next thing the president will do is to take a bill to the National Assembly so that for INEC to conduct elections at the local government level. And when we even speak of INEC, it's not that INEC is the best, but I can assure you that whatever INEC will do is going to be 100 times better than what is being done by the state electoral commissions. Okay, I think that's one of the. I am sure that a president who saw it fit to take this matter to the Supreme Court knows that the next step is to ensure that INEC will conduct elections at local government level.
Indeed.
If we want democracy to thrive in Nigeria, if we want development to get down to the grassroots, that must be done.
You know, I don't know whether to talk about it being sincerity of purpose on the part of President Tinubu, because you see, things that are being done now could have been done in the past. Instead of the speeches that we were hearing, the attitudes, the positive attitudes, but go this last step. So yet again, the president has demonstrated his well-known maxim that there is no alternative, nothing better than democracy. But even that democracy needs to be arranged for it to be able to survive. And this, which the additional in Osun called a watershed, this is one of the first steps. And as you have said, it's really the first, because there are going to have to be a number of other things to see it to the whole fruition, so that it's not just in name only, but also in action and also in deed.
Yes, true. True. I agree with you. Kudos to the president on this. Okay, is one thing he has gotten right, and I also said that kudos must be given to President Buhari because he started this. You know, and President Tinubu finished what he has started. You know, I hope that the president, as he has gotten this right, he must now begin to look at all the other areas that are not working well, that are failing, and start rejigging all those areas so that Nigerians can actually see the dividends of democracy, and Nigerians who are suffering right now can start smiling. This is a very good step in the right direction. A lot more needs to be done because Nigerians are truly burdened, and there are little things we can do to ease the whole system. And this was just a little effort. Get the Supreme Court to interpret this. You understand? But someone had to take that step, and which he did. So there are little things he can do also, right? And I expect that he's thinking about those things that he can do to ensure that Nigerians are living a better life, that the current economic crunch eases, that the insecurity we're experiencing, that that just the general malaise, the hardship in the system, that it reduces, you know. But I want to say this to Nigerians today, you know, and I've said it so many times. It's one thing for the president of a country, the government, to do what they're supposed to do. It's another thing for the people to be in there with them, supporting them, giving them their maximum support to ensure that whatever they are doing works for the benefit of all Nigerians. This is the disconnect I see in Nigeria today. We are totally divided. We have a people who are disconnected from the government, who you have a section who want the government of the day to fail for reasons best known to them. Some people don't want to accept that elections are being won and lost. Yes. And we need to give the people leading us right now maximum support so that we can all, as a people, solve our common problems. That is what we should be looking at right now.
Okay. Mr. Sadiq in Gombe. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead now.
Yes, I'm Remain Sadiq from Gombe. I will really appreciate your program. This decision is one of the best judgment that happened in Nigeria because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu shows that he's really a true Democrat because it takes a political will by the president to stand on this issue. Because if you look at the previous administration, former President Muhammadu Buhari tried all his possible best to see this judgment, but it couldn't pass I will really appreciate the effort of the president, and then we say kudos to the Supreme Court. But the only thing that is going to be a challenge is just like riding on a dead horse. If we allow the State Independent Electoral Commission to continue conducting the election of local government, because if you look at all the local government chairmen, even the caretakers and the elected, the so-called elected one, are just a political talks or houseboys of the governors. They have already pocketed them, and including the state houses of assembly. So what we want now, and Nigerians want now, is to allow the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct a local government election. I think that will be the second best decision that will happen to our democracy. Mm-hmm. So I say kudos to you. We really appreciate Mr. President, and we appreciate your effort for enlightening the good people of Nigerians. We appreciate the effort of Mr. President. So that's my little contribution. Do you have a nice day? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sadiq, for calling in there from Gombe. Indeed. And the other thing that, for instance, you said that, look, there are a lot of things that can easily be done, as this has indicated, with little effort. I mean, everything is important. Every little, medium, and major effort is important. But with just a little effort, things can be done. And this is about moving the levers of democracy, of government, moving them appropriately. I imagine some have begun to say that, you know, it's only a matter of time before we will actually have state police, for example. That these things that we had thought were so far away that couldn't be done, just working with democracy, accessing some of those levers that have been left in the position that they were, metaphorically speaking, can make a great deal of difference. I think it was in that sense that you said that such a little effort can have such a profound effect, and actually begins to say that we can deduce from this that there are a lot of other things also that can be done. Yes,
I believe we're definitely going to see those things. Like I said, it takes minimal effort. I think the yearnings of Nigerians are loud and clear to everyone. I think a smart president should look at the low-hanging fruits. And if you are talking about low-hanging fruits, you look at what are the top 10 things that Nigerians are yearning for and try and deliver on those things. And this was one of those things. Like you call us to talk about INEC conducting elections. We are talking about seeing development at local government levels, ensuring that yes, industrialization there, that you have electricity across Nigeria, you have pipe-borne water there, you have better schools and water view. Now, the president has opened the pipe. What is the pipe? The pipe is money, adequate resources. With subsidy gone, there's adequate resources. Now, the money is now getting to the local government level. The local government chairman is now on them. People don't need to be calling governors so much anymore. The local government chairman, the onus is now on him to ensure that his local government is developed. Roads, better schools, infrastructure, ensuring that the right policies are in place to attract investment in those places, looking at the best places, the best means to raise revenue for the local government, for you to fund your programs. The onus is on those people, and that's why I said in the next 2-3 years we'll start seeing a better quality caliber of people entering those offices, and things will improve. It's not yet Uhuru, but certainly the journey has started yesterday.
Okay, Wale in Houston, Texas, all the way over in the U.S. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Mr. Yori, first of all, I want to thank the learned man in the studio for being a very truthful and a Nigerian, not being a politician, not being a political issue, taking this issue, this matter as a political issue. You know, I want to thank him for being honest. But I have one question for him. And the reason why I have this question for him is something I saw this morning, and I know that will convict a lot of Nigerians. So this issue we're talking today, this morning, How does it relate to all the LCD, this president, all the LCD he made when he was governor of Lagos State? How does this relate to this thing? Because the reason why I'm asking him this, I want him to clear this for us, for some of Nigerians. Because some studio stations, they've been saying this morning that President Dumebi created some CDL, what do you call it, LCD, when he was governor, and now he's fighting for the local government autonomy.
Okay. Okay. So to get Mr. Kachikwu's impression on that, because I think there's a matter where there's an aspect of the pronouncement of the Supreme Court where it was said that they won't be able to pay to anybody but a local government. I think you understand the context in which he's put that question.
Yes, yes. I think the judgment was very, very clear, and with that judgment, it lays to rest the issue of LCDAs, right? There's no money that will go from federation accounts to LCDAs. The money will go to the statutory authority recognized by the Constitution. Okay, and I think that judgment was very, very clear. So the Lagos state government has got to make the necessary adjustments to meet
Indeed.
this the ruling of the Supreme Court yesterday to ensure that they are properly funded, the local governments are funded, because this ruling certainly does not recognize LCDAs. And I want to also say something. I mean, I was reading a report in the Punch this morning saying that public officials received 721 billion naira bribe in 2023. And that report further said that the bulk of that bribe happened at the local government levels. When I say it's not yet uhura, I want all Nigerians to understand that there's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen at local government levels, because we are now going to, with this judgment, there's not going to be extra focus. We're not going to be extraying what's happening there, because we blame the state governors, we used to blame the federal government, but now that we know that these guys are funded, we'll now realize the rot at that level. There's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen there. And I want law enforcement, judiciary, everyone, civil society, everyone to start beaming their searchlights at the local government level to ensure we clean up that space so that Nigerians can get the ultimate dividends of democracy.
Indeed. I recall that report you just referenced there. Public officials received 721 billion naira bribes in 2023, and that's by the MBS. So it's a credible report. I suppose this is going to lead on to so many different kinds of reforms, but we'll come back and we'll continue this conversation, also take calls from home on it, and also speak a bit more about some of those aspects you referenced about many more things that can be done where there is the will, as President Tinubu has indicated in this instance, with this new sort of, shall we say, this new kind of path. Kachikwu, billionaire, businessman, and the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress in the last elections. And we're looking at, this, what it has been called a watershed, and we've been speaking for the past half hour on how much good this portends for us. And you referenced there, just as we were going away, a news headline, drawn from a publication of the National Bureau of Statistics, that 721 billion naira, no less, was actually dispensed in 2023 by way of bribes. And this was, the MBS reports is on the axis of corruption in Nigeria, patterns and trends. So not everybody would know about this, but they are watching it, and they say that these are the patterns and the trends. And they say that comes to 0.35% of the GDP of the country, no less. So are you satisfied that the president has many balls to keep his eye on? Are we keeping our eye on the corruption ball as well as we could?
Well, Are we keeping an eye on the corruption ball? This report makes clear that Nigerians are dissatisfied that we are not really keeping our eyes on the corruption ball, you know. And I believe that the challenge faced by the president today is that Nigeria is besetted by myriad problems, right? And if you look at the report clearly stated that top for Nigerians, corruption comes fourth. That's cost of living, insecurity, and unemployment come top three.
Yes.
With
yes.
corruption following, you know. So for the president, you know, a smart president is following cost of living, insecurity, and unemployment. Unfortunately, tie corruption to it, and you'll see that all these things are interwoven into our DNA as a people, into our fabric of life as Nigerians, right? And we've got to try and solve the problems together. If we fix the economy, we'll fix unemployment. If we fix the economy, we fix security, because people who are resorting to crime and what have you, a lot of them or some of them are doing that because they cannot find jobs, businesses are collapsing, and people are being laid off work and what have you. If we fix that, we fix the economy, cost of living will go down. A lot of these things, like I said earlier, we have to understand as Nigerians that these are not just issues for the federal government or state governments or local governments. These are issues for us as a people to come together and say, how can we fix this? The president has done a lot of things, but one thing which I feel is lowest hanging fruit that he's not doing is driving this conversation about getting Nigerians to the table to have this discussion. For example, I go to a place called Farmers Market in Maitama, Abuja, to buy fruits all the time. And I'm buying mangoes, and they want to sell one mango to me for 800 naira, 1,000 naira. And I asked the madam, I said, are you buying mangoes with dollars? Why are mangoes so expensive? And he says to me, Oga, even if I'm plucking this mango from the trees, the money I make is what I still use to pay rent and transportation, and they have all gone up. So I have to take my prices. So we're in a vicious circle. Everyone is increasing prices, and people are increasing prices. There's no hard and fast rule or any formula with which they're increasing prices. People increase prices subjectively. We're all being affected by this. As you increase prices, it affects the economy. As it affects the economy, it affects insecurity. As it affects insecurity and what have economy, unemployment. So there's a larger conversation that needs to be had by all Nigerians. Do we want to fix the leaking roof in this house, or do we want the roof to collapse and for our house to be completely drenched and for this house to collapse? We need to have this conversation, and the president and those in government, political office holders, and all Nigerians must get on board for us to have this conversation. Otherwise, this president can do all the right things and we'll see no real results because Nigerians are not on board on this conversation that needs to be had.
Indeed. Uche in Abuja, thank you for holding on. Good morning to you. Go ahead now, please.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle.
Good morning.
You see, let me first commend the president for the step he has taken, because this is a presidential system of government. There should be 3 tiers of government. And I will not fail to commend President Buhari because he started this activity in restoring presidential system of government in Nigeria. But I want to say I have a divergent opinion. I think Nigerians are over-celebrating over this judgment of the Supreme Court, because I'm speaking now as a master student of constitutional law, okay? Because it does not really, and I quote me, it will not address this challenge. This challenge will continue. There is an intertwined quagmire in the Constitution. I think the judgment of the Supreme Court would have been to direct the amendment of certain sections of the Constitution in relation to this quagmire of state local government joint account. Because this judgment they have given, it does not repeal Section 162 from Section 5 to 9. Is very apposite. This judgment does not In fact, what this judgment does is to reiterate an obvious fact. What is this obvious fact? It just reiterated our law, which some of us are already aware. It's just like coming to say, come and remind us what we already know. We already know that there is a quagmire, and we already know that there is a need to separate the quagmire. So, does this judgment remove the constitutional power vested in State House of Assembly under Section 7, subsection 1? Because the law is very clear under that section, vesting the power on a State House of Assembly to determine issues of establishment, structure, composition, finance, and functions of the local government council. Does this judgment vacate or make the State Assembly to rescind or withdraw such powers donated by the Constitution on them? It does not. So I think this call for gathering to collect intellectual, constitutional law intellectual. People like us, some of us can come in if there would be an umbrella for us to equally look at this thing very fundamentally, because to me, because it's my area of law, to me, this does not address the issue. Quote me, if the governors should bring people like us and other people who have deep knowledge of constitutional law, they will tell them, I tell you, there are pitfalls. There are still pitfalls here and there. Apart from this Section 162, the whole everybody is gallivanting about. It does not address the issue. The major issue is in Section 7, subsection 1. In fact, not only subsection 1, subsection 2, subsection 3. Okay? Because these are the areas where the powers of the to manage, or even, you can imagine the word establish. What is the synonym of establishing? Creating. If the Constitution gave the state power to create a local government, power to finance, power to determine structure, then what are we talking about? That the Supreme Court gave the judge. This is it amounts to a media razzmatazz and a ballyhoo that will not solve the problem. I'm being honest with you. So these are the issues to look into. We should not over-celebrate. It is not yet time for hallelujah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Uche, for calling in and, sensitizing us to that area. But our guest has said that there's a heck of a lot more to be done. This is just the first step. But let me let you react to Uche's submission.
Yes, I'm glad Uche is a lawyer and he understands that no judge will give you what you didn't ask for. Okay, what the executive asks for is an interpretation of the Constitution as regards the joint account between local government and states, right? And that's what they ask for. Now, when you are independent, when you are financially independent, it goes to say that you are totally independent. But the framers of our Constitution expect that at every tier and every level, we must have checks and balances. And I believe that what they have done is to ensure that the State Assembly is essentially a check and balance for the local governments. Whereas the local government councils have essentially also have their own parliament, so to say, that is supposed to be a check and balance, right? But the framers of the Constitution went the extra step to ensure that the state assemblies are a check and balance, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just an added layer of security. What's important in this judgment is that for how many decades we have not had a situation where our local governments were independent. They have never been independent. But now, when you are financially independent, you are truly independent. So, nobody can say it's too early for us to be shouting hallelujah. I earlier said that we should, yes, it's not yet Uhuru, but this is actually a watershed moment. This is a lot, considering that this fight has been going on for a long time, and knowing what happens at the local government level. So, I mean, I think that this is the first of many steps that we expect to see. First of many steps. And let me also say this. There's no perfect law or constitution. What is the essence of a national assembly or state assemblies? The essence is that anytime we meet gridlocks or obstacles or bottlenecks in our constitution, is for them to manage it, change, amend to suit our modern day realities. Not so. So it's a continuous process. So whatever we see that's not working here, we will also look at how we amend the constitution to ensure that it works for Nigerians.
And this is without prejudice to the fact that, as has been said, there's more that needs to be done. Mr. George Inekeja, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to Mr. Kachikwu.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, the Supreme Court judgment is a very good one. I say kudos to Mr. President and the Supreme Court. We are now going to see a major change in the dynamics of election. Uncle Yori, there is no governor that wants a local government in his state to be controlled by another party. How the elections will be held is going to be a major issue. I support those who are saying that INEC should conduct the elections, because if you leave such elections for the governors to conduct, you can imagine what will happen. No other party, the way they have been doing it is the way they will still be doing it. But one question I want Mr. Kachikwu to help us answer. What is going to be the method of checking or holding these local governments to account in terms of money that you send to them, how they spend it? The federal government going to be monitoring the way they spend such money?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Maybe
I believe that our laws are very, very clear, and the same checks and balances we've always had are still there to ensure that local governments are held accountable. We have ICPC, we have EFCC, like I mentioned earlier. We also have the State House of Assembly, and also at the local government level, they also have their own parliament also that check the councillors who can check the local government chairman and the local government council in terms of in whatever they are doing. So the framers of our constitution knew what they were doing, and it's just for people to work. You can have as many laws as you want. If people don't implement those laws, then you are going nowhere. We just have to ensure that the people are sensitized. And obviously, today with social media, we now have another layer of checks and balances, which is Nigerian people. The Nigerian people are sensitized. We see what the sensitized people can do. We saw what happened in Kenya, and Nigeria is not immune. So, a sensitized people are a check and balance on any level of government or any tier of government.
Cecilia in Abuja, good morning to you.
Uncle Funari, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for calling in.
And then your guest there, thank you so much. Thank you. My contribution is that, first of all, can we learn to appreciate a good thing that has come to us as a result of this judgment? Can we say to ourselves that governance is not about President Tinubu, and I want to say kudos to him first of all, and then kudos to Supreme Court for the judgment. Can we say to ourselves that we all have a role to play? Can we say to ourselves that we had an election that saw somebody like the president who has everything that it takes to have won the Lagos State, and Lagos State did not go to him because the people were involved? Can we say to ourselves that, look, that the community level, it is our choice to say, this is the man that we would want to vote.
Celia, did we lose her? Did the call drop? Oh yeah, it does appear so. But, well, thank you very much for calling in. Even if there had been more, we do get the import of what you had said. And I think she was going along very much some of the areas that you had also identified with, which is that there are low-hanging fruits to this. And I think her emphasis was that, look, rather than criticize, or appear to be doing that, there's much to be commended, and there's much that we can take hold of and run with in, the work that the Supreme Court, the President, and all people have done. But I wanted to also say to you, you mentioned along the line the role of the people in all of this, because people must engage for any of this to work. And I think you lamented the fact that so far I hope I'm not assuming wrongly, that you don't think the people have engaged enough. And maybe you could bring the National Orientation Agency, because I think it has to do with what is the orientation of the people. How is it helping all of this? Is it helping all of this?
Well, a few days ago, in one of my tweets, I said that the difference between developing nations and developed nations is that the people in developed nations, when they face challenges, there's a preponderance of solutions and ideas. The people in developing nations, when they face challenges, there's a preponderance of lamentations. If we want to get out of our present quagmire, we need to start coming up with solutions. I keep on saying this all the time, that the job of the opposition is not just opposing, is to also propose. Who is opposition? The other political parties, the parties like mine, the Nigerian people. Our job is to propose. We must have our own ideas, our own solutions to every problem we face, on insecurity, on unemployment, on the economy, on every issue we face. Bring our ideas and solutions to the round table so that as a people we solve our problems. We are not 3, 4 different countries. We are one country, one people. We are Nigerian people. We must all solve our problems. But if we start looking at our problems from the prism of politics, from the prism of different political parties, from the prism of past elections, we can't solve our problems. Unfortunately, however you look at it, we have the president in that office trying to solve the problems. We as a people must start doing our bits, our individual efforts to start adding to this conversation so that we all solve our problem as a people. But I say this again. I believe that the president has by and large failed in being the one to drive that conversation, a conversation that says that, hey guys, Nigerians, we have to solve our problems. How do we sit together? How do we come as a people? We have this problem facing us. This is beyond government. This is beyond my office. It's a Nigerian problem, a problem for all Nigerians to solve. How do we do this? What is the methodology? What is the modus? What's the way we solve this? He ought to be driving this conversation. We see these conversations in the Nnamdi Kanu situation. We see this conversation in the insecurity situation. We see this conversation in the cost of living. We see this conversation in every single thing. It's bigger than the office of president. It's a conversation, a problem for all Nigerians. And as long as all Nigerians keep on pointing to the president to solve these problems when we do nothing ourselves, as long as the president keeps on thinking that, oh, I alone can solve this problem with my policies and my plans and all that stuff, we are going to go nowhere. It's a Nigerian problem that's affecting every single one of us. How do we solve these problems as a people? It's not an APC problem, not a PDP problem, or an ADC problem, or a Labour problem. It's a Nigerian problem affecting all Nigerians. How do we solve this problem as a people? That's the conversation this president must be driving. He must start driving that conversation today.
Indeed. And I think that's a fine place to leave it. I want to thank you very much, Dumebi Kachikwu, presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress in the last election. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and so that's our program today. Do please join us Monday for a fresh edition. Yori Folani, do have a great weekend.